All right. Radhe Radhe, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and we get started today with chapter 6, Dhyan Yoga. Before we start, let's do our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanudhardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So this is our shloka for today, where we are, this is the first shloka from chapter 6, Dhyan Yoga. I'll recite this and then a few people can also do the recitation if they're interested. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashritah Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sasannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnirna chakriyaha. Anybody who wants to recite? Okay. Falguni ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita Karma Phala Karya Karma Karoti Yaha Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Nirgnar Chakriyaha. Sorry for that. Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe. Nitin ji.
Shri Bhagavanuvach Anashritah Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Niragnir Na Chakriyaha.
Pratusha ji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Sandhya. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Anashritah Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Niragnir Na Chakriyaha. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. All right. So here we see the translation as well. This is from 4 different versions of Bhagavad Gita, but essentially it's really the same that's there in all. So I'll just read the first one. He who undertakes action without desiring its fruit is both a sannyasi and a yogi. And he is not a sannyasi, one who has merely renounced the sacred fire, and is not a karma yogi, who has merely stopped all actions. So let's get going. So let's try and see what is our understanding of a term called sannyasi or a yogi. So I would like actually at this point of time invite people just to briefly share who do they think, how can we identify a sannyasi? Anybody? Okay. Nitinji, want to say something?
Yeah, sannyasi is one who wears orange robe or grows a beard or does a living like that of an ascetic is a sannyasi. That's a common understanding. Okay.
So one of the things that came up is this. Interesting. Um, looks like others put their hands down, which means like they were thinking the same. Okay. Champaji, Radhe Radhe.
Sannyasi is the one who has renounced the material part of life.
Okay.
Did not wear saffron color, but you can still renounce all the activities which will bear the fruit. That's my understanding. Even at home, staying in the sansar, you can become a sannyasi.
Okay. Fair enough. So let me add like more dimensions to this question. So we just talked about saffron clothes. There can also be people who are like Naga Babas who do not wear, who have just renounced all their clothes. Are they also considered a sannyasi? As Nitinji also pointed out, people shave their head, or some people tend to have like matted hair, like hairs which are never cut. So which of these criteria is probably we can use to identify a sannyasi? And we just heard from Champaji, right? Or so Nitinji, you were saying something.
Yeah, I think none of it basically, because my understanding is it's an internal state of mind that truly determines whether you are sannyasi or not. Like if I take an example of Prahlad, he was told by Narsingh Avatar to rule for one manvantar. One manvantar, we know the calculation, right? How much one manvantar is? 1,000 Mahayugas is one manvantar. But then he was a sannyasi, even though if you look at it, he was a king. So it's an internal state of probably being detached from the bhog aspect of it, of sense indulgement, where you are beyond that or detached to the world as such, would probably determine whether you are a renunciate, true sannyasi or not. So it's an internal state more than your external appearance or any of the physical manifestations that it may take with regards to growing a beard or shaving a head or not wearing anything or maybe subsisting on leaves or on only milk and stuff like that. It's an internal state than any external manifestations.
Yeah, with that, because you also pointed out about what they could possibly be eating. So I had also brought this thing up. Like, ideally, as per our shastras, there are various rules that prescribed sannyasi is supposed to be following. And, like these things that I showed in this picture are kind of part of those rules, like bigger set of rules. But so they could be something that's associated with the sannyasi, but they are not defining features of sannyasis, like as Nitinji also said. But this is one thing that I wanted to point out, which I actually learned while looking at this shloka, was that, one of the external things is like sannyasis are not supposed to do any kind of karma kands, where, like for example, this is a fire which is used for cooking food. So they are not supposed to do that. That's one of such rules. So, and then that's why there are different kinds of sannyasis, like phalaharis, who are just having fruits, dudahari, who are just having milk, and then in fact pavanahari, who are just breathing the air and not eating anything. But again, as we just discussed, it's all externals. They could be associated with a true sannyasi, but they are not the defining features of a true sannyasi. Um, I see Pratusha ji's hand raised. Yes, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Sandhya. Actually, I just wanted to give a technical term of sannyas. So, san means everything, all, and nyas means to abandon. So, a person truly is a sannyasi when he abandons everything which is in material in nature. So you can count everything and just gets situated in silence. So he doesn't need anything, he doesn't want anything, and that is a true sannyasi. That is, sun means everything, he abandons everything. So then people misunderstand it like, it's a state, like Nitin sir pointed, it's a true state that comes from within.
Looks
No,
like
it is not like that.
yeah, so let's look at it like so. Yes, but I think let's understand it more deeper, because it's like Krishna is defining what truly sannyasi is, and can we really gauge that by external actions or not? So, okay. So what is it that can, this is something, we have seen, like Patushadi had made this beautiful graphics. So we have discussed it many, many times. What is my true nature? What is our true nature? So what is it that will actually satisfy our true being? So we have talked about these different layers, right? We have body and five senses, which basically is a part of our gross body. We have mind, intellect, complex, and many other aspects of it, which forms our subtle body. We have ego, which is part of our causal body. So all these three bodies which are associated with us are perishable. They are going to not exist eternally. So anything that belongs to these three categories, such as the things, the people in our life, the circumstances that we face in our material situations, and the actions that we perform or people around us perform, which results into some materialistic fruits, they are all perishable, and they are all somehow related to these three bodies. What is our true identity is the soul identity, which is eternal and non-perishable. So like this was just a reminder of who is true me. So now let's think about what is going to satisfy the true self. So a water drop will easily mix with water, but if you want to mix oil with water, they will never mix, right? Because they are of two different natures and they are immiscible with each other. So that is exactly the case with us. So we have always learned this repeatedly, that there are only three entities that exist in this existence. One is material energy, the soul, and the super soul, God. So out of these three, material energy, Maya, is perishable. However, the soul and the super soul, like the elements of material energy, are perishable, but the soul and the super soul are non-perishable and eternal. So as we learned from this example, water mixes with water, oil cannot mix with water. So basically, oil cannot satisfy water molecules and vice versa. So similarly, any perishable thing cannot satisfy our true identity, which is the soul, because it is non-perishable. So expecting that we can get satisfaction from any of these things is our naivety and ignorance. Okay. And that is what actually, as you can see in this graphics below, it's basically a cycle that we all keep going through, which is birth to death cycle that goes through, growing up, experiencing the diseases. So Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, right? We keep going through these cycles because of our ignorance and our false identification with these three bodies, which are perishable, which can never satisfy us. And with this attachment to the material entities, we end up just circulating in this cycle of birth and death. Okay. So then how are we supposed to see these different bodies and what is the use that they are supposed to serve? So as we just discussed, they are simply perishable, and they are material in nature. So whatever is the nature, that's where it can actually serve. So these bodies are these are worldly, so they are supposed to, in some sense, serve the world. So all these three are neither mine, but they are all fruits of my action. They are worldly and they belong to world. So what can we do with these bodies? With the gross body, we should render selfless service to everyone around us. With the subtle body, we should think of welfare of everyone, every soul, every being. And with the causal body, we should offer stability. Like basically, causal body is responsible for having inner stability and peace of mind. So that is what we can offer to others as well. So that is really how we can utilize these three bodies. So one thing to kind of focus on is the fruits of action fall into this category. They do not belong to us and they are not meant to serve us. So, and someone who actually manages to do these things, utilize these bodies for the right purposes, they are performing the right set of duties and they are called as dutiful. And because they are not identifying themselves with the fruits of their actions, they are also tyagi or renunciants. Okay. And what is the nature of our soul? We have like endlessly discussed this, that our soul is an eternal fragment of God. So the only thing that can satisfy the soul is union with God, which is what yoga is. So that's how a yogi can be defined. So essentially what we have talked about is if we end up discharging our duty selflessly, and by selflessly here we mean not attaching with our fruits of action because they are part of the perishable being, we can actually rise above old attachments, as well as we will not build any new attachments. And if that happens, we will basically exit the cycle of binding karmas, the birth-death cycle. Okay. So now another topic for discussion. Who do you think is at a higher pedestal, a karma yogi or a sannyasi? Anyone? I can give both the options. Okay, Pratusha ji.
Actually, Krishna Bhagwan has said that Karma Yogi is higher than sannyasi in terms of work, because the Karma Yogi is actually a sannyasi, but he's involved in the world and doing, in that respect, through action, because of the action, they are superior. Because internally, both are same.
Okay, so we are saying that the left one, from one perspective, might be true. Okay. Like, I think the logic that I understood from you is like a karma yogi is performing both material and spiritual duties. And probably that.
Yeah, a karma yogi will be doing material and spiritual activities as spiritual activities only. He will not consider it as material. He will consider himself as a instrument of God, and he'll be performing only spiritual. As for him, it's spiritual because
Oh.
Bhagwan has put him there.
Okay. Nitinji, I think you were going to add. Yes. Not? Okay, wait. You should be. You are a co-host, right? Oh, you rejoined. Okay, yes.
I don't know. Who's higher? I think with regards to the internal state, both are essentially doing the same. So in that sense, it's the same. But if you look at it with regards to who has more time to spend on this thing, right? A Karam Yogi, it's a fraction of the time that they are spending in along with discharging their social duties. In that sense, that fraction of time is more in that sense, right? It takes a lot more effort. I don't know what is the criteria. It's like who's walking faster. Is it based on the number of steps? Is it like you take weight into account as well? Because higher person can walk slower. So I don't know what is the criteria. It's a very nuanced answer.
Fair enough. So let's see if the one of the criteria is this, discharging duty without attachment to fruits of action.
Both are same, right? In that case, internally both are same.
Yes, I do agree with that. Equanimity in pleasure and pain while discharging duties.
Both are same, right?
No sense of doership and enjoyership.
Same,
And rising above the karmic cycles.
same.
So exactly, like from my understanding, essentially a karma yogi, like I think even Pratushadi mentioned this, that essentially a karma yogi is a sannyasi as well. Internally, as you, Nitinji, said that they are the same. So I think from the perspective of a practitioner, we shouldn't feel like, okay, that is at a higher pedestal and that's what I should aspire for. Um, and we have had discussions about it in the past as well. But this is really the essence that based upon all these results or all these, what do you say? All these properties of an individual, that's what is really necessary. And so both Karma Yogi and Karma Sannyasi are serving this. So they are both equal from this perspective.
Karam Yogi is also helping Brahmaji. He has created a society and an order, right? So Karam Yogi is also helping Brahmaji along with fulfilling the spiritual duties. So I don't know.
So yeah, so the only difference which is not specified here is this term in the second point, duties. The kind of duties that they perform is different depending upon what is their prescribed duty as per the kind of role they are playing. But I would say, like from the eyes of God, there is no difference. It's just that they are both doing the kind of things God wants them to do with the bestest, in a perfect way, rather, I would say so. Okay. Falguni ji. Yes, Radhe Radhe.
I just have one question over here, that we say that Karma Yogi is equal to sannyasi, right? But suppose if a person has taken sannyas, like he has taken sannyas because he for any for any reason, but then he goes up high in the Himalayas and says, okay, now I'm going to meditate and all that, but he has not truly renounced because some desires are still there. So then is a sannyasi a Karma Yogi? I mean, vice versa, is it both?
So
I mean,
actually, like
not necessarily, no,
based
because
upon our first slide, that individual cannot be called as a sannyasi, because what you described is just something external, and that doesn't prove the internal state.
okay.
So even if that,
Called a wannabe sannyasi is not a sannyasi in true sense.
yeah.
Aspiring sannyasi. Sannyasi means he is already past that stage where they are not desiring it. And that is why Lord Krishna has said it's better to do your duty rather than taking premature sannyas. Because if you take premature sannyas, if you're not ready
Yeah,
for it, you are
exactly.
neither here
Yeah,
nor
exactly.
there. So with Karam Yogi, at least there is a safety net of their social duties. So they will not end up incurring sin. But with sannyasi, that is the only thing you need to do. So it becomes very, very tricky. If they falter or they err, then they are
Huh.
not even discharging their social duties, so they will end up incurring sin.
Exactly. And that's why, like we have discussed this in the past as well, that Krishna has very strongly recommended that majority
Karma
of
yoga.
people are supposed to follow the path of Karma Yoga. Yeah. And Karma Sannyas should only be taken under the expert guidance of a qualified guru.
Mm.
Okay. Pratusha Di, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just wanted to say that meditation is not sannyas. So meditation is a process which will elevate your consciousness and will help you understand yourself. But it is, if somebody is going to Himalayas to become a sannyasi, by probably the means is meditation, but that doesn't make him a sannyasi. He is, as Nitin just said, it's a process.
True. So, and that's what we are actually going to get into. Now that we are going to dissect different parts of this shloka and understand what Krishna has is conveying us. So the first part is anashritaha karm phalam. So ashrit is a dependence, anashrit is independent. So becoming independent of fruits of our actions. So that is basically detaching ourselves from the fruits of our action. And we just discussed, right, that our fruits of action are perishable. They belong to the category of those three bodies, which are worldly, material in nature, and they are meant to serve the material energy. So we need to detach our true identity from the fruits of our action. So that's the first part of this shloka. And that's when Krishna is saying that a person should discharge their duty only for the sake of performing the duty without having any attachment to the fruit of action. And this is called selflessly performing our duties. Okay. The next part is Karyam karma karoti yaha, which is basically talking about performing our prescribed duties. So here it's discussed that, we tend to think that I cannot perform my duty. And we tend to run away from performing our duties. We should understand that what is not to be done is actually a kartavya, which is like inaction. That is very, very strongly condemned by Krishna, that we should not choose inaction over action. And only two things for which we can say that I cannot do this can be only of two types. One, which is beyond our bodily capacity to do, and second, which is forbidden by scriptures and our traditions. So only those two kind of activities are not to be done. Other than that, we are supposed to be dutiful. And we should, again, like just reiterating this, that we should be resorting to performing our prescribed duties without expecting anything in return. And that can only happen if we are detached to the fruits of our action. And we are performing only from the intent of welfare of others. Actually, that always reminds me of this prayer that I think all of us might have heard, which is Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhag Bhavet. So that's a very beautiful prayer where we are just praying for the welfare of all the souls, which is, I think, part of our duty. Okay. Next part is Sa Sannyasi, Sa Yogi Cha. So that is where Krishna is saying that that individual who is performing the prescribed duties without having any attachment with the fruits of action, that individual is a true karma yogi, and that individual is a true renunciant or a true sannyasi. So that's what is mentioned here. And a yogi is also defined as someone who has attained this mental situation of equanimity, where irrespective of all the dualities, they are maintaining the same state of mind. Pleasure, there is pleasure or pain. The yogi continues to discharge the duties irrespective of these situations. So in that case, the sense of doership and enjoyership gets destroyed, and the actions are performed without any expectation of reward. And in these cases, one can basically exit the cycles of birth and death. And such a karma yogi is also a true sannyasi. Okay. So the next part is na niragniha. So this is what I was explaining, that externals are not really indicators of what you are. Like I think had enough discussion, like a person going to Himalayas for sacred austerities is not necessarily a yogi. And similarly, a person who has renounced the act of cooking or burning the fire for cooking is not necessarily a sannyasi. If he still is giving mentally importance and attachment with material objects, that person cannot be a real sannyasi. Last part is about na akriya. So inaction. So someone who has chosen to renounce all their material duties and say gone to Himalayas for secluded sadhana, cannot be simply defined as a yogi. As we discussed, yoga is union with God. And one of the reflection of that state of yoga is attaining equanimity. So there are these internal factors which can suggest us if someone is yogi or not really such external things. And going to like such Himalaya thing could provide someone siddhis, but that does not again define them that they are a true yogi. Okay. So that's the conclusion of this shloka. So basically like a little bit of practical application aspect. So we tend to say that it is very, very hard for us to perform action without attaching ourselves with the fruit of it. Like we may not feel the motivation to do it and things like that. So that's not really the case. The problem is our initial equation. So if we are basically thinking that 2 plus 2 is equals to 5, and with that equation, we are performing all our actions. So we can never get to the correct result. So let's understand what does this really mean. So this is a story, not story, like an incident. We all know that many farmers end up committing suicide when they don't get enough water, and like this is basically showing a dry land, and there was basically there was an expectation and that did not get fulfilled, and as a result of that there was disappointment which led to depression and hence suicide. So again, there was a wrong equation that we end up starting with. Anybody wants to point out what was the wrong equation here? This is the hint. Okay. Yes, Vatusha.
Yeah, he got identified with the externals and he did not understand who he really is. So he just became the victim of externals.
So yeah, so the fundamental wrong equation is identifying with all the things which are not soul, and with that attaching to the fruits of action, because and that's what gives you the expectation, makes you a part of the expectation cycle, and that is what is the cause of disappointment. So basically this is the fundamental equation that needs to be remembered. So the problem is that like this is something Nitinji has told us, and I really find it very humorous but also very eye-opening, which is like we are the ones who are hugging onto the tree and we are saying that leave me, leave me. You can see the picture on the top right. So this person is shouting leave me, but it is this person who is tightly holding onto this tree. And this is the analogy to how we are attaching our mind to the material world, to Maya. And then we are saying it is because of Maya that I'm not able to remember God or practice my devotion. So It is just us who has to, have the right equation to get started with, and that's when everything else will fall into place. Yes, Nitinji.
So I think we can have a discussion on what is the sign of attachment. When can we say we are attached to the fruit of an action? What is one of the symptoms for that?
Fluctuation. I mean, yeah, we should discuss this. Yeah, I mean, I feel that it is like fluctuations with externals. Like if I get something, I become happy. If I don't get, I become sad. And that is a sign of we getting attached with the fruits of action. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, and then why God is saying don't do that, right? So it's pretty interesting. That sense, yeah, we can have a good discussion on this.
Yes.
What is the
Yeah.
sign of we being attached to something? How do we know that it's our attachment at play for that particular thing? Yeah. Madhucha.
Madhuchandra.
Radhe Radhe everybody. In this case, like it was a question for me also. Always I have this question in mind, and suddenly I start feeling very cold about the spiritual knowledge that I try to gain and discuss. And yeah, really, I want to have a direction here. And thank you for getting this case sort of here. Like I have just at present I stay at home, but before that I used to work very closely with people who worked in farms, and I was actually working with unprivileged people, and I saw that they are in a vicious circle of less money, less food, uh, loan people who give loans, and it is a vicious circle. And it is not that the people who do these suicides, they do it in the first instance only. It is after many years of suppression, many years of people not seeing them, uh, they do that. But that doesn't mean they help it does helps in any way. Their family becomes more miserable then. uh, but I also, after knowing this, having this knowledge of centering ourselves in soul, and not in body and all, still I can't figure out, like, how can a person who is deep in debt, struggling for food, the basic necessities of life, which they do, and in India it is quite many of them, uh, and they are also being displaced. People being displaced, the farmers being displaced. There are so many issues in the ground. Like, how can this knowledge, or how can we in fact invite them to have this, and also and thus have a good understanding of this, so that they can at least not kill themselves. It would be really helpful to me. Like, if and many times I would feel so helpless in thinking that we are so knowledgeable, we try to be knowledgeable, we study a lot, and so much work is going on. Many researchers, good intentioned researchers are going on too, and many are trying to help them, but still it is such a vicious circle that mm, uh, every year farmers
Right.
are dying and all that. If you could give a little direction, at least I think in my mind I'll feel
So
okay,
one,
this weekend.
it is unfortunate, of course. It is pure economics and the inability for them to support their family because of their financial situation, which makes them so anxious that they think the only recourse now is to take away their life. So one thing that I can think of is, if they truly understand the spiritual principle around it. See, it's like this: if you declare I'm going to take my life away at 6 p.m. tomorrow, what will happen? Some policemen will come, they will put you under arrest. It is illegal even in this material world to take away your life. So think about the spiritual rule around it. You are rejecting a body, that to a human birth that is given to you, no matter what the hardship is. If you do that, spiritually speaking, that's the worst thing one can do to themselves. They get into it as a punishment. It says that you go into a very miserable existence. It's like a soul who has cravings. Let's say you have all the cravings. Soul continues with its journey with its subtle body. So cravings are there, but then you don't have a body to experience it. You need a body to experience, right? It's a very miserable existence, and they are put into that existence for an extended period of time because of this crime that they have. Even in material world, they'll punish you if they come to know you are going to reject your body. So spiritual laws are there. So if person truly understands their true identity, not of being this body, then they will find a way out, even figure out a way, how to support that and all. But they will not reject their body. At least this knowledge that you cannot punish yourself so miserably. It's not an end of your misery. You are signing up for a bigger misery. That is another part of it. And second, of course, is the part of it is it's easy said than done, but people who are struggling for food, clothing, and shelter, for them to get that spiritual awakening becomes a little difficult because their life is devoted around making meats, meat time for the rest of the day. One thing that could possibly help is, this too shall pass or workout. God has still given us an able body. There might be some other means to support, even though through poverty, things could change because God tests our resilience. And at the same time, he does make provision for us, beyond a point. So I don't know, those kind of knowledge could help. But then why would you sign up for a bigger punishment when you are aware of that principle? You'll at least not reject your body, is how I can see that, if they truly understand the spiritual laws that dictate giving up your body. And other aspect is, of course, you go through that. If God has given us body, you try something else, to feed your family or to yourself. It's not the end of the world. Something else could happen as well. You fight, show some fight around it and all. Easier said than done, but at least this could help them to do something different other than simply taking away their life. I'd like to hear from others as well.
I actually just quickly wanted to add one thing. Like we talked about this, that our bodily duties involve engaging our body in the welfare and service of others. So I think in situations like this, whoever is associated or is having any position to do something through their body to help such individuals, definitely that is one duty that I think we should be engaging in. But highest and most empowering thing in this world is the spiritual knowledge that Krishna has given us. So, and as far as I understand, there are now, it's reaching people in all sorts of remote regions as well. Like I know in Doordarshan, which is like DD National, that is very accessible to people in all remote parts. And uh, there we are having mind management lectures. There are different kinds of satsangs which are directly or indirectly informing us about how to deal with situations like this, which are coming from Bhagavad Gita knowledge. So I think whoever has an opportunity to engage these people in such spiritual education, I think that will be really empowering. So yeah. Pratusha Di?
Radha, actually, I have a story. Maybe you guys have heard about Dr. Prakash Baba Amde. So he was actually a doctor by profession. He got married to a doctor, and he went to this tribal area where, which was basically in forest. The moment they came with pants and shirts and things on, they ran away looking at them. Then it was very difficult, but they worked. He brought them, and there was a shaman in the tribe who were, treating people with small cough and cold with all the, pret bada and all of that. And then they will leave that people to die if their condition becomes worse. But then this doctor took them and brought them and cured them. So that earned their trust. And when that happened, people started coming to them and started listening, and then slowly they brought their children to him. He was not in a position to teach, but he took them one by one, and they were 40 students initially. It went on to one of the child became a doctor, came back to the same place, And again, just spread and if you read his work, Dr. Prakash Baba Amte, in his presence, he lives in the jungle with his wife. The wife also agreed to come. Before marriage, he already told her. So even though lions and tigers and every small and the bigger animals in his presence sits quietly together. So that's the true power of Karma Yogi right there that you will see. You just Google about him to see the videos. So what you can do there is first earn their trust, then tell them about these things. In whichever, but most importantly, support them. Support them in
All
their
possible.
education or whatever, their financial stability, helping and then giving the knowledge.
Awesome. So, okay. Anything else that Nitinji, in continuing with this discussion?
Yeah, one more thing is to, when you understand spiritual principles, right, then the sense of responsibility increases. So if you think about the act, also it's like a selfish act where I can't take this anymore and I'm unwilling to take responsibility of people around me. So I might as well finish it off for myself. Now, if they understand, you cannot finish it off. Okay, you have to go through what you are supposed to go through. You have just postponed it. Plus, you've added more misery to your afterlife by rejecting the human body. So, this spiritual understanding could probably dissuade them, because then their intellect would tell them, hey, this is much more wrong than what is happening right now. Right? Physical thing is fine. It could, you could do something about it. But when you are taking on spiritual pain, that could have effect, afterlife effect as well. So, but yeah, like you said, there has to be forum. People go to prison, and those kind of
Yeah,
things are there where you can educate people, and that could help with that part of it. So financial help is one aspect of it, but money will end. You give food to somebody, you'll feel hungry again. But once you give spiritual knowledge to somebody, that is a permanent asset forever. So yeah.
great. I hope some of it helped Madhuchandaji's confusions and queries. So with that, I think we have like maybe 10 minutes, so we can move on to our devotional segment. We have been covering the Radha Govind Geet, but before that, I also wanted to inform all of you that we are thinking of starting having our discussion twice a week. So in addition to having it on Sundays, we are also planning to have it on Saturdays. Um, and and the topic on Saturdays is going to be getting inspired from saints, which is basically learning the stories from Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have come across a book which is like Pratushadi has introduced us to that book, which has stories from Bhagavatam, which are comprehensible and easily understandable, from where we can get inspired from various elevated devotees. And so apart from learning these fundamentals of Bhagavad Gita, we can also start learning from the bhaktas how to actually practice devotion to God. So we thought that we can take it in parallel. So Saturdays will be Srimad Bhagavatam plus devotional segment. So we can say Bhagavad Katha, Bhagavad Bhakt Kathas, Bhakt Charitram plus devotional segment, and Sundays will be Bhagavad Gita plus devotional segment. So with that, I will stop sharing, and it will take me a minute to share the devotional segment with you. Or Pratusha ji, if you have, okay, let me just do it. You see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Something going on.
In the sense?
Things are mixed up. Let's see the next page probably.
I just downloaded it, but why is it not going to the next page? Something is weird there. While I'm just sorting this, if anybody wants to say anything, please go for it. Okay, I think I can now share this. Now it's fine?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's get started.
So I'll just read the song and then probably Sunday you can read the meanings
Okay.
and then you can sing the song also. All right. Okay. राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे मेरे दोनों ठाकुर गोविंद राधे भोरे भारे राधे गोविंद सीधे साधे सदा मुस्कुराए दोनों गोविंद राधे मेरी शुभ कामना है उनको बता दे मेरे दो ठाकुर गोविंद राधे मोहि दासी 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 बना दे राधे
Beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, so I can quickly first read the meaning. I have two masters, the supremely simple and innocent Radhe and the gentle and simple Govinda. Convey my best wishes to the divine couple, Radhe Govinda, that they may remain ever smiling and happy. O Radhe Govinda, both of you are my supreme masters. Please make me a maid servant of the maid servant of the maid servant of your maid servants. Of course, this is very beautiful. And I'll also quickly sing it. And then anyone else who's interested in reciting this, please raise your hand. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe 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 Govind Govind Radhe मेरे दोनों ठाकुर गोविंद राधे भोरी भारी राधे गोविंद सीधे साधे सदा मुस्कुराए दोनों गोविंद राधे मेरी शुभ कामना है उनको बता दे मेरे दो ठाकुर गोविंद राधे मोहि दासी 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 बना दे. Okay. I saw one hand raised, which I don't see anymore. Shri Ramya ji had raised. Is there anyone who wants to sing? Okay. Yes, please go ahead, Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, I was just checking if time permits, so I'd lowered the hand. So, okay, I can go ahead if time's there. मेरे दोनों ठाकुर गोविंद राधे भूरी भारी राधे गोविंद सीधे साधे सदा मुस्कुराए दोनों गोविंद राधे मेरी शुभ कामना है उनको बता दे मेरे दो ठाकुर गोविंद राधे, मोहि दासी 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 बना दे. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And now we can end this. So see you all hopefully on Saturday. And we will post the announcement in the community about this. So Radhe Radhe.